फसाना वादा रहा सनम होंगे जुदा न हम चाहे न चाहे ज़माना हमारी चाहतों का मिटना देखो तो क्या नजारे हैं तुम्हारी तरह प्यारे हैं हंसो न मेरे लिए तुम सभी तो ये तुम्हारे हैं ओ जाने जा हमारी चाहतों का मिट ना सकेगा फसाना हमारी चाहतों का मिट ना सकेगा फसाना वादा रहा सनम होंगे जुदा न हम चाहे न चाहे ज़माना हमारी चाहतों का मिटना देखो तो क्या नजारे हैं तुम्हारी तरह प्यारे हैं हंसो न मेरे लिए तुम सभी तो ये तुम्हारे हैं ओ जाने जा हमारी चाहतों का मिट ना सकेगा फसाना हमारी चाहतों का मिट ना सकेगा फसाना वादा रहा सनम होंगे जुदा न हम चाहे न चाहे ज़माना हमारी चाहतों का मिटना
Good evening, TNT family. Welcome back to Yellow is the Code and UNC USA. I have my friend Mr. Suman Singh with me, and we just want to welcome everyone. And also, we want to give recognition to our Indian arrival heritage that's taking place in TNT, all the celebration that's taking place, and also to our young lady who's representing Trinidad and Tobago in India, Miss Anna Lisi Nanton. We want to give all the support. She's in the lead over there. Don't forget to download the app on Miss World for Miss World on your phone and vote for her. With that, Mr. Suman Singh, welcome back to UNC USA on the Yellow the Code program. How are you doing tonight, Mr. Singh?
Good, my friend, and good evening to all our viewers and those who are listening on the various social media platforms. Welcome to the program. Yes, Gary, I'm doing okay. It's the humidity and the heat is high here in Miami Beach, but we got to learn to live with it. I guess the effects of climate change is really coming on. Yes.
Climate change, we're in it, whether we like it, believe it, or want to acknowledge it, it's here with us, and we have a adverse weather alert in Trinidad and Tobago with the yellow alert. We're back with that yellow alert again. And,
yes, tomorrow.
So yes, we're dealing with that kind of weather condition.
Yes, and Dr. Ramuk sent some footage with respect to the sargassum seaweed in my yarrow yesterday, and it really looks horrible.
Whole shoreline, whole day, what's in front of the house?
There we go.
Oh my! That is what is on the shoreline. But this is what I'm talking about. In the waters. In the water as well, so it's been in the shoreline is one thing.
Go ahead.
Yeah, but in the water, when it's in the water, imagine you're trying to get a boat in, to bring people in on shore.
Yeah, Doc, this is what we're looking like today. From yesterday to today, this is what we're looking like in front.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and the entanglement of the DCVD on the propeller of the boat, it causes a lot of destruction for boat owners, you know. So it's a multifaceted approach has to be undertaken to clear these things. I don't know how much the government can do on that because it's an everyday scenario. I think we have to involve the communities and so on as well to make it more of a multi-pronged attack on this thing. It's happening all over the Caribbean and even here in Miami Beach to a large extent as well. I mean, they can probably afford it here to run the various, machinery to clean it up, but in the Caribbean, I don't do certain that they have the capability of having these expensive equipment to do this every day or every 12 hours. So that's why I said it has to be a community-driven project alongside with the government, alongside with different, interest groups and so on.
Well, I mean, we need a lot of community restructure, and all of that was mashed up and suppressed under the previous administration. So they didn't want to empower the people or encourage anything like that. They were more mama guidelines and hypocrisy we have seen,
Oh, yeah.
But so we have a lot of work to be done. Yeah.
Yeah, is it?
So here we see our Minister of Works meeting with our MP for Mayaro out there, and they are trying to look at the issues that they are dealing with. So there's a lot of things going on. So
Yes.
go ahead, Mr. Singh.
Yes, on the major news front, which I saw happening as well yesterday, is the Prime Minister meeting with the THA, the Chief Secretary, and a couple of his representatives, along with the Prime Minister and MP Padarat. We had discussions on a number of issues, yes. From left to right is Zorisha Hackett. She is the Secretary in charge of Education and Research. The Chief Secretary there, Mr. Chavez Agustin, Honorable PM, and MP Padarat. That's a team that met. And, you see, this is the thing, constructive thoughts on Tobago development. I never saw media releases like this before. Over the past 10 years, I have never seen a headline like this at all. Whatever headlines I saw, anytime the Prime Minister meets or did meet or had to meet with the Chief Sec was always more on the slanderous note. I say, hey, Farley, shout him out like it's a school kid. He never recognized the office of Chief Secretary, So thank God there's a media release like this. Prime Minister and THA Chief Secretary hold constructive thoughts on Tobago's development. And I have a special interest in Tobago, Gary. As you may know, I was Tobago's first economist under Mr. Robinson. I developed, along with him and along with their team, developed the development plan for the island. I was the economist on the team. And, we carried out a lot of infrastructure work. That time, there was only one main road in Tobago, which is the old Milford Road. When I was there, we took on the construction of the Claude Noel Highway. And that road is, after 50 years, it's still the same. Highway is well built, well constructed. Most of it was done by Sirian Brothers, who had their camp was in Tobago. And the road has held up beautifully. It has been well maintained, I must say. And probably that's the reason for its longevity thus far.
Is the
So,
I don't see much work with Sri Ram Brothers anymore. It seems like the company kind of shrink a little bit
yeah,
in
yeah, but they were stationed in
quite a
Tobago
bit,
for,
quite a bit. Yeah.
yes, quite a bit.
I mean, they're based in Castleford now, but I mean, Sri Ram Brothers was the company that got the job done. They was the
And
number one.
and the resurfacing of the airport as well, the runways in Tobago, not the current airport, but the one prior to this, they were there. And as you may know, I was also Tobago's first senior project analyst. I was also Tobago's first director of tourism, and I was also Tobago's first director of ICT. I have a call coming through. Can you? Yeah, no, I'll call you back. How's that there? Yeah. And I'm a number first in Tobago, first economist, first senior project analyst, first director of tourism, and first director of information and technology, computer information and technology. So I love to see what's happening and how I can continue to help in these regards. Anyway, one of the most important thing which was discussed yesterday was the autonomy bill, and the autonomy means autonomy for Tobago. That is, that will lay the groundwork for development on the island, because Tobago is governed by what's called Schedule 5 and Schedule 6, which literally says that, hey, you, Tobago, you are responsible for A, B, C, D, E, F, like that. But some of those things were never fully handed over to the THA. The government of Trinidad and Tobago still held some of the portfolios on some of the things which were earmarked in the schedule to be controlled in Tobago. So that has to be regularized. I'm sure that's one of the main topics on the agenda for discussion between the Chief Sec and the Prime Minister. Tobago as well has a set of unique problems, and one of it is land tenure. And I could tell you from my experiences in the island, having been involved for almost 40 years, is that a lot of the lands were passed on and handed on from generations. So that if let's say your parents own a piece of land which they inherited from the landowners, the absentee landowners, they will now allocate the lands to their children, but that is not then done legally. It was just done by word of mouth. So they will say, for example, oh, you are my eldest son, take this piece from the coconut tree to the mango tree going forward. That's yours. Next son, from the coconut tree to the mango tree behind, like that. So there was no legal titles assigned. And now what has happened with over generations, everybody occupies the lands which does not have any formal structure or legalized formal structures, which means they cannot take their deeds because they don't have the deeds. They cannot take that to the bank and, arrange a mortgage to build a house, get financing to do any sort of work they need to do. So that has been a sore point for development on the island. Another thing what was discussed on the agenda was the transportation between the islands, both the airfare and the fast ferries, as well as the bulk ferries. And this has been a sore point. We all know the hassles to try to get to Tobago in any holiday season. Like example, this weekend coming up is a holiday season, and the last flight is normally at 10 o'clock. So imagine you're trying to promote tourism, and you have your airlines coming in from Europe or Scandinavia or UK, as well as Canada and US and so on. And most of these airlines come to Piarco, and then they have to catch on to a flight to go to Tobago. And here's that the last flight leaves at 10 o'clock. What happens there? Some of these tourists who come bring their equipment, their surfboards, their kite boards, their scuba equipment, and so on. This can be accommodated on the larger planes flying down to the Trinidad. But what about flying from Trinidad now to Tobago? You can't get a flight. They cannot accommodate your equipment most of the time. And you have to stay over in Trinidad for the night. Now, that has been a sore point for travelers. So even resident Tobagoans and Trinidadians trying to get over to the island for a holiday weekend, and so it's only with great difficulty. It's only through great difficulty. So that first impression, psychologically on your mind, going to Tobago, that is a hassle boy. But let me go to Barbados, I could go get a flight in the morning and fly to Barbados or St. Lucia or Grenada, up the islands as I please. But it's so difficult to catch a flight to Tobago.
And that's the system that PNM created. And you must ask yourself why. A lot of people, they keep voting red and ready. And you must ask yourself why. Was the PNM making life easy for you or more complicated?
And I know for a fact, because I was director of tourism there during my tenure, there were flights operating up to 12 o'clock, and in some instances up to 2 in the morning when the partnership government was there. The same would have happened with the Sea Ferry, Bay Ferries Limited, which transformed itself into TTIT, Trinidad and Tobago Transport, Inter-Island Transport. And there was a smooth operation, a nice operation, and then the contracts were for certain transport ships were terminated. It terminated when the PNM came on board and created quite a havoc with getting delivery services more so with goods and building materials, where the truckers were involved and so on. So that's a long story again. So everything became so much more difficult when the PNM was there versus when the partnership government was there. I guess so. This was also on the agenda, the transportation wars between the islands.
I definitely want to see that we create a port at Toko, where we cut the distance to get to land between Tobago and Trinidad, and because Tobago is more on that side there, and that could help enlighten the economy of Tobago too. We help to enhance things there with tourism, the hotels, various things. We could help drive an economy from that end. If we were to make that connectivity. And it makes no sense for people to go all the way around just to get to Port of Spain and then get into the midst of that chaotic traffic. So why not connect, shorten the distance, connect to that Toko area there, and that would also help in many ways.
Make it an hour's trip instead of the 3-hour trip. That's what they're saying. It would be an hour's trip rather than a three hours.
Because you have to go all the way to Port of Spain and get into a midst of unnecessary chaotic traffic. When you could split this thing up and Tobago is closer on the other side, why not build a port there and accommodate the ferry between Trinidad and Tobago? It's a shorter distance, so less choppy waters to travel through, and you get to land quicker. Also, I want to see I want to see a heliport for the Coast Guard built out there by Tobago, and we man that area. I'm not sure what we're doing right now, but I would like to see that lighthouse with with our Coast Guard people up in it, and we have that area under surveillance, and also we build a heliport over there with the Coast Guard vessels docked within that area also to respond. So a Coast Guard heliport and the port for connectivity between Tobago and
You will
Trinidad.
you will have to create a sheltered area because that's full exposure on the east coast. So water sometimes can be choppy out there, but you need to have that sheltered area. As far as the heliport goes, I know near the lighthouse there used to be an old runway, a short runway there many years ago.
Well, what I'm saying, we can revitalize that.
Yes, yeah, that can be revitalized and make it as a security point for the island as well. Anyway,
I was trying to get that done in 2010, but we are in government again, and it's on my mind. I want to see that happen with dealing with that area, creating opportunity for the people in Topo Sandy Grande.
and not only that, they can even extend that service to San Fernando as well, because a lot of people from south do go to Tobago for vacation. So you can have
Can we change the route? Can we change the route instead of having them go all the way around to Port of Spain to San Fernando?
Correct. You can board the vessel now at San Fernando, and on certain days of the week, and so on, from boarded from Toco, and some from Port of Spain, and some from on different days. So, once you have that scheduling out, instead of doing both trips out of Tobago as far as the fast ferry goes, and also the regular transport boats, another 2 boats, instead of all 4 boats departing from Port of Spain and clogging up the system there.
Yeah, there has to be some rerouting and decentralization. It's
yes. I'm sure, and make it like a true fast ferry, a roll-on, roll-off fast ferry. I know I went to look at the system in Norway, which had a super efficient roll-on, roll-off system that you just drive yourself on the boat and you drive off the next side of the boat. A true roll-on, roll-off. Ours is not that like that. You have got to park your car and turn around your vehicle and when you park, you have to park on the reverse side so you can drive off your vehicle over the ramps and so on. But in Norway, it basically is you drive on and you continue driving on when you reach your destination. And then there were a couple lanes, like 3-4 lanes. You just slip your ticket in the boat and they continue driving right inside the boat. You don't have to stop and give nobody your ticket and this and that. These sorts of things were eliminated. And that is almost 20 years ago they had that system. So not even thinking of reaching there yet. But anyway, that will aid the tourism. It will open up Tobago as well as Trinidad, especially southern Trinidad, for more operationalizing the service from the south from the northeast and from Port of Spain as well. So that was one of the other things. So tourism, transport, the land tenure and land titles, and the autonomy bill with respect to schedules number 5 and 6. And the last thing I understood that was discussed was the digital and digitalization. Digitization and digitalization, which is really the e-government, the aspect of it. Something I have been trained on as well to deal with. So over the past 10 years, the PNM government just talked about digitalization and digital, but I don't very, very,
People can
very
spend a hell of a lot of money and you can't give account for it. You know,
minimal,
I can hardly wait for Parliament to open.
minimal, achievements were done.
Welcome, Anna. Welcome, everyone. So, guys, if you have something that you want us to address that you would like us to mention, please message us and let us know. The option to join the conversation is also open if you would like to come in and join the conversation. So, yes, so hopefully we can all work collectively together. I mean, you're seeing the comfort with the people, that they are more relaxed and in order to engage, and they are more happy to engage with our new Prime Minister there. And it's very encouraging from my end to see what's taking place in Trinidad, with the joy and the happiness and the willingness to come together, and everybody's speaking out. We need this here, we need this there, and you didn't hear too much of that with the previous government. The minute you try to say something, you get smacked. And
that's it. Yeah, we have been treated like little boys and girls. You got to stay quiet once class is on. Basically, it was a teacher teaching the class sort of operations. So you stay quiet when I'm teaching. And that was what the PNM was all about. Spreading the rumors, spreading the lies, spreading the non-delivery. And that was acknowledged by the last Prime Minister, who said, it took us all this time, but we're now ready to implement. After 9.5 years, we finally are able to start implementing. So I guess the class I mentioned I was teaching was a kindergarten class. That took 9 years of learning. So it's either that or it tells you the quality.
So what he was telling us, he's about to sit his SEA then.
Yeah, no, that's not SEA. That's a kindergarten class. That is.
But I'm saying he took 9 years of elementary school and now he was about to sit the SEA.
Yeah. Yeah, and then it took him 9.5 years to okay, now we are now ready, class. That says a couple of things, right? Is that the students in his class were totally dumb. If it took them 9 years to get out from point A to point B in their learning environment, it means they had no structure, they didn't have a good teacher, the curriculum was poor and was just about focusing on non-delivery. So that is where we find ourselves at this point in time. But it was a nice effort to be with Tobago on the centerfold and had the initial meeting. I understand it was a 5-hour session. So at least they're starting on the right foot with all the discussions, and hopefully it will bear some fruit in the short term. People are anxious. I don't know if you know the election upcoming in Tobago with the THA elections early next year, either January or February or around that time frame. So, with this momentum that is generating from this past election, I think it will be a good carry forward into that THA election as well. So, but one thing we must be able to understand that this thing started with the THA when they obliterated the PNM in Tobago. 14-1. So they are not new to it. Is that their message to a large extent redounded to what happened in Trinidad on the 28th of April.
THA Farley set the page.
Yes, he set the pace, and thank God the majority of the people in Trinidad listened. They listened. And now it's our turn to ensure or assist the THA to ensure that the keep the momentum going, and they're able to repeat their last performance. So I think it's looking positive for all of us, both in Trinidad and in Tobago, because once you can regularize the transportation system and you can assist with the land tenure and land titles business in Tobago, and give Tobago's, start to pick the low-hanging fruits in the autonomy bill and give them more control over the island, bit by bit, because you can't do all at the same time, but you do it in bit by bit, and eventually it will all get done. And that's all they were asking for. Nothing new or wholesale. You will have get everything at the same time, but a gradual approach, a more completed approach, from the sense that we hit the nail on the head. Exactly what they wanted, they got. And not a watered down version of what their requirements were. So that's a good start. And I saw some.
This is some work taking place in the Port of Spain Corporation, Mr. Singh.
Okay.
And our Minister of Works, everybody at Works.
But Gary, something.
For the amount of years Port of Spain has been looking like a dump with, and it's like the road, the potholes are so bad. I mean, the people are on the job now.
But I don't know something I was trying to ask the guys yesterday, and I did not get a clear answer from neither of them. I think Arjun and Mr. Sukhdev. I asked the question, how come the people who were there all these years and were famous for non-delivery, how come that they are starting to work?
Because they have different leadership. That was the answer. They have different leadership. And a very forceful one.
And a very forceful one.
It's called Khadija Amin, and it's called Kamla Prasad Bisesa.
And
right?
Jolene John.
And we have
well.
Jolene John on the other end. So I don't know if you want to take on those three women. Go ahead. I wish you luck.
I surely don't want to even come close. But anyway, I think that the political will to make sure it happens. But I wondered sometimes whether these things were instructions from on top. That just don't proceed with anything. Just let it ride itself out. Because I can't see how the same people can, mobilize themselves with some leadership at the top, yes, no doubt about that. But they get into work. So why they're not doing it all this time tells me something much more. It has to be that the leadership at the top either did not know or instructed them not to do anything much. Just, rally around and hope that the flood water subside over time. Because the color.
Yeah, we have Councillor Kamla Pagu, Warrenville area. She's on the job. And
Right.
She's not too far from Richard Sukhdev, constituency there. And she's on the other hand of him. She's getting work done.
Right? Because it requires coordination, and we see that's happening. With all the various ministries and some cases private citizens going all out to try to alleviate the flooding situation. So it all goes well for us going forward. I want to see, or I hope that at the experiences of, if there's any inclement weather. I think tomorrow is a yellow alert again to see, what how the flow is. Flow meaning the flow of water. Is it clogging up, or anyway, is it flooding or bottlenecking somewhere again? I mean, this work will have to be continuous. It's not a one-off. It has to be continuous over the rainy season and the dry season, as well. I'm stressing that because you have to prepare yourselves in the dry season when you have greater access to some of the riverine floodplains. That at that time, when there's literally not much water around, than now when there's several places waterlogged or have water in it, so that equipment and so on becomes more difficult to maneuver. So let's see this weekend and how the flooding goes. I hope there should not be any, or very, very minimal, given the situation. I think the yellow alert is tomorrow, ending at 4 p.m. It said when I heard it in the news. So,
Well, I mean, based on what I've seen, based on what Richard has said last night, we know for a fact whatever takes place is going to be very minimal.
That's what I'm hoping to. Yes, I'm hoping it. So that it means if it's minimal, that whatever action that was taken prior or this past week has worked or is working. So they just needs to continue that or keep up the momentum and try to clear some additional areas where there are little bottlenecks and so on, and make it happen.
So here we have Minister of Agriculture met in the Komoto Manzanilla area today, and we're looking forward to seeing the report on that, where he's meeting with the farmers, and I'm sure he's going to address the flooding issue as well. So that took place today. So that was good to see.
Yeah, so that interministerial, remember that is our first, one of our first agenda meetings we had here from the UNC USA advisory team, was that coordination aspect. If you recall, we were calling for that immediately from day one, that the left hand needs to know what the right hand is doing, which means you have to coordinate among the various ministries, because no one ministry has all the resources to carry out things. And by coordinating, you can, and spreading the job around, you have access to a lot more equipment, a lot more personnel. And in most cases, you have people who are accustomed with dealing with these flooding issues, like the Minister Amin, who has walked through the trenches in local government. So she's fully aware of the operational side of things, to mobilize your resources and get it going. So I guess that experience served her well in these rounds. Other than that, there's not much making new news from my side.
Yeah, well, there's a few things. The Minister of National Homeland Security had to call out on the police because there was a lot of them were calling out sick and trying to use up all their sick time, and he kind of called them out on that. And then I saw a little article here, of how very concerned these so-called citizens are of law-abiding citizens having access, or more free access to being armed or getting an FUO. So I want to know if the amount of criminals and the free access of guns to the criminals didn't threaten them, but they are more threatened by law-abiding citizens. And they know we come in with that standing ground law in the parliament. And they seem to be very concerned about what could happen if law-abiding citizens have access or more free access to ammunition to defend themselves. Could you imagine that?
Well, where were they all the time when the same law-abiding citizens were being murdered, ambushed, kidnapped, and houses broken into, where you are basically a sitting duck at the hands of criminals? Where were they at that time? All of a sudden, you have a voice. The thing is, that is just one aspect for deterring criminals, but there are other aspects as well that need to go hand in hand. This is a multi-pronged approach. It's not, no one thing can solve the crime problem. It has to be a multi-pronged approach.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is they became so concerned because law-abiding citizens go and all these things can happen. But they're not concerned about criminals running around the country wreaking havoc and have the most sophisticated, heavily sort of ammunition to unleash on anybody. And 50, 60 bullets can go all in a couple seconds.
Well, I don't know. I think I read it in your Facebook heading to this evening that it's Penny Beckles, or unless that is fake news. But Penny Beckles, her family, brother is one. Hold on, I have a call coming through. Hello? What's up? Yeah, okay. Okay. Okay, no problem. Yeah. No problem. Yeah. Okay. No problem. Just hang. If I'm not up, just hang. Yep. Yeah, I will take it out when I come. Yeah. Actually, no problem. Yeah, Gary, I'm back.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like I was saying, they're overly concerned. They're not overly concerned about the amount of criminals that has heavy ammunition. The level of hypocrisy. Anyway, I saw Dr. Boudou talking about the extended hours coming to our health centers across the country. And this is something I'm looking forward to because this can ease the burden on the hospitals where persons may not need to be in a hospital facility with some of the issues that they have, and they can get it sorted out in a local health care area. This will free up the major hospitals with dealing with some of the issues, and we could provide the necessary resources there to kind of sort out a lot of the medical requirements and the needs of our citizens in some of these local health centers.
And that was mentioned as a quick low-hanging fruit in their campaign trail. So it's good to see that they are carrying out their promises. Not only that, they're planning to do it after work on evenings as well as on Saturdays. So that's an even better initiative so that working persons who work during the week, Mondays through Fridays, can have a chance to go and visit the health center on a Saturday or on an evening after they come from work. So rather than having to take some time off from your work, do it at your convenience. So that's even so much better so that the country doesn't lose that amount of productivity from its workforce. But more so,
we have accidents taking place. We have people getting shot. We have people with the regular issues that would happen normally in life, and you don't have the luxury of time when you're having a heart attack or a stroke. So the sooner and the shorter the distance for you to get medical attention is absolutely necessary.
Absolutely, and not only that, he was mentioning, and I quite agree with him, that you can utilize the large surplus of doctors, unemployed doctors you have right now. So they will become employable as well.
Plus the Cuban Medical Agency there is offering. So, I mean, but we have quite a number of doctors who can do some of the basics, within the hospital until
Yeah,
they're
yes,
upgraded. So they need the training anyway.
correct. So this is again is a question of management and operational management more so. Do you
You get 5 or
identify?
6 doctors to a regular doctor in emergency room.
Yes,
That will
yes, yes,
help greatly because they'll be
yes.
assisting him. They'll be learning, and
Training
and people,
as
yeah,
well.
that's
And then
how we do it here in the US.
after time, after a year or two, you are capable of managing your own operations and training even younger doctors now who join the system. So that's that is how medical knowledge spreads. You're trained as an intern till you become a regular, and then you go out on your own and do what you have to do, what you are trained to do, or go and specialize in certain fields as the case may be thereafter. But at least you know
We
that
will manage to attend as well some very narrow-minded, selfish, ignorant people, and it just cause a lot of damages for our infrastructure, every country.
but the health system was one that, I mean, I hear, yeah, all I do is I hear stories about it, and I say, I can't fathom what I'm hearing to a large
But
extent.
Mr. Singh, a lot of stories are even told. A lot of stories are even told because people are so frightened to talk.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, people have to wait 2 years to get a scan, a CT scan, or MRI or
Yeah, in the
something.
meantime, you
These
can
things,
fly out the country and get what you need, right?
yeah, or that's if you are capable of flying, or if you have the resources to fly. I hope that.
But I'm talking about the guys who were in charge of the government. They could fly out and get what they needed.
Oh yes, yes.
Take
Oh,
income tax dollar.
at state
Yeah,
expense, of course. At
yeah,
state
yeah.
expense. Yeah, that's the perks of the job, and you can fly out, go for anywhere for medical care, and the state pays for that. Meaning
Can you
you are
imagine how many people were going over by Parun there for help? You know,
yeah.
how many
I,
people were going to Venezuela? Because I mean, we hearing about Cuba and the US, but how many people actually went to Venezuela?
yeah, Colombia as well. Very, we don't see these as advanced medical tourism markets, but those markets are highly competitive and comparable, well-trained doctors to anything here in the US as well.
There's two
That's
things.
the
There's two
other.
things we have to work on that aspect is the university where our people can be trained in Trinidad, and the
But,
hospital facilities and the health centers. And we're seeing
but
here where Mr. Trump is putting restriction on student
well, I was going
visas.
to comment that. I'm going to comment
Go
that.
ahead.
But yeah, but you know what? The Cuba Hospital, Children's Hospital, was, part of it was a teaching hospital. The San Fernando Hospital again, that was also a teaching hospital. So you can train and intern doctors and so on there. I let them avail themselves, working with a specialist to see how things are done. So
With
do
the
we
amount of
need?
qualified doctors that graduated, we could spread them out throughout Port of Spain, San Fernando, Cuba, you name it, Point 14, and get
All
some training all over.
Grandi,
Abrima Hospital,
Miami,
yeah, Grandi.
all over,
I mean,
especially now in the
work out
Marine.
something where whether it's a stipend or something until they're qualified to get their actual professional pay, but at the same time giving them the opportunity to gain the experience, and we need
Yes,
that.
yeah, let them sit whatever internship exam they need to sit after that, and let them move up the ladder as the case may be upon successful completion of their internship.
Nothing beat
Okay.
hands-on experience. Nothing beat hands-on experience.
That's right, man. Absolutely nothing. But what I was getting at, we already have these two institutions. None of them were used over the past 10 years. So no wonder we're in this sad state.
So we
But
should be
respect-
capitalizing where people cannot go to the US to further their education that we can do right here in the Caribbean.
Yes, and
Our Caribbean people, so our people from Trinidad going anywhere else, they can get their education right in Trinidad. And then we
No,
can
so-
make room for Caribbean nationals.
yes, quite right. I would really like to see TNT become a leader.
So education, tourism, medical tourism too.
and an educational leader in the Caribbean in all spheres, in all spheres, medically, and a workforce as a workforce delivery of highly skilled labor force to tackle any sort of jobs or any sort of manufacturing, as the case may be, because we did have that advantage for a while. We had a highly skilled workforce in any area you can think about, which with capabilities to man a lot of different type of operations. But those things have become subdued, and the past governments did not see the merits of trying to maintain that leadership position as far as workforce training went. Now, this is leading to a different point, which I want to get into tonight as well. Today, President Trump instructed all the US embassies around the world to stop interviewing students for gaining visas to come and study in the USA. Do you know what that means for a lot of students who had ambitions, dreams of becoming this, this professional, that professional, especially in the area of education, or science and STEM, the science and technology, engineering, and so on. Because I guess with that, they're trying to make sure that the rest of the world does not come close to them to catching up with the
Being
US.
competitive against the US, but they're already ahead. They are already ahead.
Yes, and
Best
they don't.
engineers, best everything is outside the country.
Yes, so they don't want this technology to get out too fast. So they will stymie any sort of development from any other country.
India is 1,000 miles in front of them.
Yep,
Providing the
China.
best technological engineers and doctors and everything. So
Yeah.
we gotta pick up slack in the Caribbean.
Yeah, well, it's already here. 1 in every 10 doctors in the US is an Indian doctor. I don't know if you know the statistics, but that's it. That's what
I've
it is.
seen it.
It's, you go to any one of the health institutions. I go a lot here doing my research and so on. You go to Mount Sinai, University of Miami, Miller School, Jackson Memorial, these big hospitals. You see it all the time. So, yeah, but that is going to have serious repercussions, especially in the STEM areas for us in the Caribbean. And
Well, eventually, if he wants to act stupid, we could get some of these same doctors, because these are not ordinary doctors. The most qualified professional doctors in these hospitals were Indians.
yeah,
All the specialists.
the highly skilled, because they're also head of the institute at the university level, the medical faculties and so on are basically manned by these Indian doctors.
So we need to create opportunity in Trinidad so our people does not have to leave, and our Caribbean people could come in there. This is something that is
and we
beneficial in
can
100 ways than one.
we can maintain that lead as Trinidad and Tobago being the number one island in the Caribbean with a highly skilled workforce
And I strongly recommend that we take control of that David campus there that was given. I strongly recommend. I wouldn't say too much, but that's what I recommend at this point. Is that we take control and don't allow anyone to obstruct what we're trying to achieve there.
I don't want to say too much on that. I shied away from that.
That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to say much anymore. That's it.
I did a position paper on it today, and I'm planning to forward it to the relevant sources. But in a nutshell, I would like to see that being technology, data, and AI center. Let that be the main campus, and with that around you, then you could develop, bring in the law faculty, the various business faculties, as the case may be, agriculture and so on. But
it could be a multifaceted campus. It doesn't have to be specialized in anything. But
the main draw will be technology, data analytics.
Yeah, we need the medical too. We need the medical, and whatever. The campus can be expanded. Nothing's stopping us from expanding.
No, not expand. We also have the Covans, and that is underutilized. That so there is scope there to even. There's no need to really bring that down south there in DB. If you have these facilities, but have not even started to be used as yet.
There's no reason why our children should have to leave the country to get the necessary medical training,
and eat up the foreign exchange if you can get that is. That's the other part.
Well, we wouldn't need that much foreign exchange if we getting the job done in Trinidad.
That's correct. That's what I say. So no longer you may need students trying to fight their way to become qualified doctors or specialists in their field by having to
just to go to Barbados. I'd rather see our students get their education in Trinidad, and then they can travel by choice, not because of necessity.
That's right. That's correct. So, let that be the main draw for that South Campus. That's institutes or faculties of data, as well as technology, as well as AI, as well as the law faculty, which was the initial, the initial thrust was to have a faculty of law down there. But you could have all of these coexisting, but let it be. I would like to see it be a leader, a global leader, and if you can get something like the Indian IIM, I don't know if you know, that's a leading institution in the world for management studies, including computer studies and so on. IIM, Indian Institute of Management.
India has everything. We don't need to come to the US for anything. India is in the lead of everything. So
and the only country that Singapore has just, the government of India has just given clearance for an IIM to be established in Singapore, and now one in Dubai. So they don't want to spread that technology around too much. And the same can happen to us in Trinidad, at least. If you could get some semblance of at least part of what they're doing with professors, lecturers, and the operational side of things, get that going in Trinidad, we can be a powerhouse in technology. And
we have a culture. We have a culture of suppressing people with good things and good intention. We have a culture there out of whatever reason, jealousy, greed, spite, prejudice. But instead of trying to uplift a person who's trying to do something right, we are more out to suppress that person, and that has to change. That has to be changed in a very forceful way. We have to create an atmosphere of support and encouragement of a person who is succeeding and exceeding in whatever profession. We need to provide support instead of oppression and opposition.
Yeah, that's right. You could see in how much clamor is being made for the opening of the DB campus, and a lot of people are speaking out against it. Why do we need that? We already have a university at St. Augustine. Blah blah blah.
Fill up the traffic in one area.
Yeah, and deny
and endanger the
students.
children in the length of travel and inconvenience the parents and putting them in more expenses. So
This
we
is
need
what
to
it
decentralize. Decentralization has to be a high priority.
That's right. And it's not only the students and money. Is all the stakeholders in education and stuff, especially the parents who have children, have to pay rent for them in St. Augustine and you are living down south.
But
Eh,
not only I know many incidents I've heard over the years where they stormed these gunmen stormed these university campus and stole the laptops of the children and robbed them right in the UV campus there.
yeah. That's
You
a
don't hear
no
that
one.
publicized, but there's been
Yeah.
happening.
No, that is a fact. That is a fact. A lot of students have gangs
So
have
we
held
have to
them up.
work for a safer environment for our children. We have to create that sense of security for our teachers can go to school and don't feel threatened. We have to provide that a high level of security, a much higher level of security and support, that the people must be confident and comfortable and don't need that unnecessary stress and focus on what they have to do.
Yeah, so
I mean, we've seen the spiral in crime, and that's why the Homeland Security Minister Roger Alexander had to call out the police on them on their sick out, because he recognized. I mean, he came from inside. He recognized what's going on. They can't fool him. He knows the deal.
yeah, so and not only that, it will spur a university that it will spur a lot of economic activity as well in the surrounding areas,
We
rentals,
need to provide
homes.
safety, security, and decentralized things where people don't have to travel to an extended period of time to get where they're going. Whether it's the education, the work, and the work from home, I support bigly, very big. The work from home, idea that we create that kind of environment. So the security we have to provide. We have to provide the necessary resources. We have to shorten the distance of travel, eliminate the unnecessary traffic, eliminate the stress, pollution. There's a lot of things we are eliminating by decentralizing things. So, I mean, our Prime Minister is in the right direction, and we must recognize that and give her the support. Just like you came out to support, to vote for her, you have to stand with her, remain fully engaged in supporting the ideas of what she's trying to get done on the ground there. And lend your voice when people
Yes.
rise up against her and trying to obstruct it. You must raise up and lend your voice. Lend your voice on it.
Yeah, and I think
The whole
also,
is an all-inclusive plan.
yeah, that's why a focus is on people, people-centered delivery. Whereas over the past 10 years, you had nothing of that sort. It was, friends and family were the only ones benefiting. Eat a food, a legal department, eat a food policeman, all these things. But then for friends and family, it was not people focused. It was for the benefit of just a few persons. So now everybody can think that they have a fair chance of getting anything, from getting a HDC house, getting a job, getting some employment, getting entrance into school, universities, what have you, because it's people-centered development than the other way around.
Well, the people we had in government was there to keep a certain few ahead and keep the rest suppressed. And the people as well recognize that, and that's why they voted the way they did. And hopefully we can maintain that, and the support can grow, and our government will. Our Prime Minister herself has the best interests of the people at heart, and I think that has been clearly understood, and we should see that things are developing as things move forward.
Yes, agreed very much so. And not only that, she made it quite clear to her ministers as well that It's all about people-centered development, and if they do not deliver or they stray from that mandate, their term of, as being an MP can be very, very short. Something like what happened to the previous PM. It was PM for one day. So that they shape up and get on stream with what the job demands from you as a representative. And from what I've seen thus far, it's very, very motivating to see that a lot of the ministers are coordinating with that plan of action. They're all on the ground, trying to attend to the problems, trying to be part of a team, trying to lend their hand.
It is what is absolutely needed, and Senator Nakid is saying that invest in our youth now or pay for the incarceration, which is absolutely correct. And the preventative, we all know preventative medicine is cheaper than the cure. And this is an old saying, it's a cultural saying. It's basically that prevention is better than the cure, right? And so invest in preventative. You go to the doctor and you do the preventative, you have a greater chance of going into larger expense. So invest in our young people, invest in the early childhood learning and guide them the right way, and invest, and that will be more cost effective.
Correct. And with the reintroduction of the laptops, for example, is going to create a whole new wave of new graduates coming on stream again with a sound knowledge base, and pity the ones over the past 10 years who had to suffer from the consequences of the PNM government, who did not have the foresight to, give, or who had the foresight really of denying students laptops or getting ahead in the technology area. So this is what when the PNM was about, they just did not have the foresight to determine, well, we're trying to develop a skilled labor force in this island. We have had that in the past. Why don't we maintain that at the very least, but try to excel and go further ahead, so that we will be noted, Trinidad and Tobago will be noted for having an exceedingly skilled labor force.
It was a song in the 60s and 70s, I think, so somewhere down there, called Action Was Louder Than Words, right? Well, the PNM their actions have been very louder than words, right? Where they intended to keep you ignorant and struggling. That was the objective. And they used every terminology they could, from race and everything else.
Well, see how that has backfired a lot now,
Mischievous, wicked people, man.
Yeah, from being in a position of strength, you have just come to the position of just being ordinary. Ordinary.
They got slapped so hard by God that they don't know what hit them yet. This is a miracle. This is a miracle. They got slapped and capsized. And we did the work, we did what we needed to do, but it was God to convince the hearts of the people what direction to go in. And the relief, you've seen the upliftment of our people. The relief is there. The freedom things, ask for help is there. You couldn't do that before.
Correct, and that's why it comes back to the question I was asking this evening. I asked the question yesterday too. How come the same people who was there all the time, how come that you see them performing on the job now? What were they doing over these past years? And it all has to do with the operationalization and strong leadership to get things done. And I wonder, and I'm saying it, were they instructed not to do anything to help the communities when they suffered like flooding and so on? Was it
Just saying,
deliberate?
they were releasing the money late and taking it back. They're playing a game, oh, you didn't use it, so they take it back. They release the money to the corporation late and take it back. Right? They collect property tax and it's not allocated to the corporation. All right? So a lot of people had to go to jail. We had to expose them.
Not only that, because if that does not happen, then why did I vote? Why did people vote if you cannot incriminate the people who screwed up? Let them be punished. Let that chip fall where they had to fall, man. I don't care who it is.
Well, we have to do the investigation. We have to expose the information and hand it to the DPP. And let's see how the DPP dance with it.
Get them incriminated, because it can't be one law for the partnership government and one law for the PNM. You know, just it's either you share across the board, you work fairly with anybody, any minister or any technocrat board, and you don't sabotage processes and implementation plans, especially development plans. Because I know from my experiences, they have done that in the past, deliberately. They can hold up any project for you. And what does that say? At the end of 5 years, the population, when you have to go on to the population and say, well, I need another 5 years, they say, well, wait, what did you do for this 5 years? Tell me what you did. And when you don't have nothing substantial to show, because your senior technocrats in your ministry did not do what you told them to do, then you look like a non-achiever. So this is what, and I'm just afraid for the younger ministers who, for the first time, are holding senior positions, or who are the ministers in their ministries. They are really at the whims and fancies of the senior public servants and technocrats who are already there, right? So I don't know how they're going to work around, how they're going to get around the structural nature of the public service to get your implementation projects being on a fast track notion. I don't know. That's the most difficult job. And unless some of these people are sidelined, or you bring in CEOs to replace them, or what have you, they will have to devise their own methodology on how to bypass the system to make sure that you can implement in this UNC case now is the manifesto, which is the development plan for the government. How are you going to implement those things if at every turn you're meeting bottlenecks and hurdles and issues why you cannot do this and why you cannot do that?
Well, the way I see it, we didn't go into government for that, So
that will be the first public administration challenge. How you getting around that hurdle? Because
we have experienced MPs along there, and the Prime Minister is very knowledgeable, and she's aware of these things because we've been there, done that. So let's see how it roll out.
That is the number one hurdle they will all face in all the ministries. So we have to find a solution to that problem. You can take a high-handed approach and say, investigate the existing person and see those who breach the law, they'll deal with them as severely as you can. There's no second chances this time around,
Well, the AG will have, I guess how the structure works is the AG will have to file a case, right, with the DPP. Is that how it works? The information has to be sent to the DPP by who? By the AG?
But first you have to find who
But the investigation has to be done,
yeah,
right?
investigation has to be.
Or to initiate an investigation. Who initiates the not the AG?
Well, I guess so. He has to if there's wrongdoing, what do you do in the case of
If you
wrong?
have evidence and you need further investigation on something, you know, or you hear something and you will require investigation, that information has to go to an authority, right, to proceed with it,
Yes,
right?
correct. That's what I'm saying. I think the first step will be the public administration, who administers the public service. So the initial work has to be done there to see who was at fault, who breached the law, and this sort of thing. In other words, who messed up?
Well, I mean, this is very costly investigative work, so
Yeah,
you
but
know,
it has to be done
it
by
has to be done, but we focus on I mean, I'm sure that somebody's working on that. In the meantime, while others are focusing on creating a revenue stream, which we need to build up.
yes. Because that number, you see, the economy runs on a number of pedestals, and you can't have one just focusing on one or two, like what we are talking about. It's just one or two aspects. There are other aspects as well that needs to be done concurrently, as you cannot do nothing. So
Well, I know my prime minister and her team knows exactly what they're doing, and I'm 100% confident in that part of it.
yeah, so there has to be a strong involvement from the Ministry of Public Administration first as a start. Because if they are in charge of the workers of the public service, then they're the ones who could say whether they were working or not working, or whether breaching the laws for this party and not breaching the laws for this.
And this amount of money spent, and why wasn't certain things done, and where did money
Correct.
go, right?
Yet the monies were allocated, and the monies are finished after 7 months of the year. So who is responsible for that? I know when I was working in the public service, I had to do a projection of my expenditure for 12 months, right, and submit it to the higher authorities, right, and they will give you monies accordingly, But seeing that somebody or somebodies give 12 months of money upfront, and all was spent out in 7 months. So there is no more money for 5 months.
Well, also example what happened we see with the Ministry of Sports there with the hiring, right?
Yes.
And everybody hired their friends and their associates with big salaries, and doing what?
And yesterday, when I spoke to one of the gentlemen on the set here, Arjun, he was saying, and I know that they get quarterly revenues from the oil companies. That is when they pay their royalties every March, June, September, and like that every quarter. So I guess the next inflows of monies will be in June. But my point is not that. My point is that the monies that was supposed to be lasting for 12 months has already been spent. So that means each ministry has overdrawn on their accounts. Big time. Big time. So now that they have overdrawn, they have a lot
Some
of
people need
payments.
to explain. They need to explain.
That's what I'm saying. So these are the head of the accounting departments, right? It has nothing to do with the releases. To an extent, yes, but not totally. The fact is, you think about it yourself, Gary. If you have 100,000 to spend for the year, that's your personal money, and you spent all of that in 6 months' time. What does it say about you? Then you are culpable of some serious crimes. God forbid you have a spouse or other members of the family, they'll be kicking your butt all along. Where did we go wrong? And how are we going to arrest this situation going forward? What are we going to do for the next 5 months? This is where the present government finds itself. We have to get money to run this country for 5 months. Where are we going to get it? We get some the quarterly review. Yes, this June tranche of inflows. Yes, but that money is already committed for expenditure, and this is the thing. You say you committed for expenditure means that you have bills to pay. And how can you have bills to pay? And what are you going to show for that? So apparently the PNM government knew fully well they were going to not be around this time, so let's commit it and make it difficult as possible for the incoming government. That again comes down to
that too. You know, I mean, they did that. You know,
it's spite, sheer spite. Make it as difficult as possible for them to govern, You know,
and put it and providing themselves with a very large salary, the largest salary I ever seen allocated to a prime minister in exit of an office.
Upon exit of an office, beside all the other perks and so on, you know. Besides all the other perks, well, a lot of people have to answer, and if this is not the case, then people will feel it was useless voting even this time around. And I will be inclined to think along those lines as well if they don't incriminate hundreds of people, not 1 and 2 and 3, hundreds of people for messing up this country to the extent that, you know, we are pauperized. Because you have to know one fact. When you don't have money, you have to borrow. And when you borrow, you have to pay back. And when you have to pay back, you pay back with interest. When you do that, you're committing the population again into further and further and further debt. Not only the population, their children, grandchildren, those who are even not born as yet, because of your bad actions. So that's what I'm saying. Hundreds of people has to go down the line, man. And if found guilty, do what you have to do. This is not a pardonable. This is not pardonable offenses. This is against the entire population of Trinidad and Tobago, my friend. So, but that being said, I don't think we have anything much again you would like to discuss.
No, I think we pretty much covered for tonight. We will pick up on tomorrow. You know.
Yeah, let's see if we get some reports on if there's any untoward weather happenings. Weather-wise, that's one thing. I don't know if you saw, is it on your platform? I read that, the opposition leader's brother and so on were in some gun charges.
I didn't get a I shared a lot of things. I didn't get to read everything, but because I was kind of like busy doing a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Sure,
so a lot of things, articles I sent out, and hoping that we could get a chance, somebody to look at it, and maybe myself later on. But
I guess.
Yeah.
If somebody can confirm that, show from time to
time. Does that make you feel good just to say that? Say it with me one time, Jerry.
Show you the money.
Oh, no, you can do better than that, Jerry. I want you to say it what you would mean it, brother. Hey, I got Bob Sugar on the other line. I better hear you say it.
Yeah, no. Show you the money.
Not show you. Show me the money.
Show me the money.
Yeah. Louder.
Show me the money.
That's it, brother, but you got to yell that shit.
Show me the money.
I need to feel you, Jerry.
Show me the money.
Jerry, you better yell. Show me the money.